lot of interest in hearing, about what it's been like for an officer and how these events have impacted specifically our African American officers. So Officer Jackson is here to provide his perspective, and we really appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks for having me.
So first, can you share a little bit about yourself and how and why you became a Portland police officer?
I got a lot of family here in Portland. Both sets of my grandparents lived on Cleveland between Alberta and Skidmore. So I didn't directly live in the city of Portland, but all my family was here, and I was always at my grandparents' house all the time growing up. That's how my parents met. So that being said, I went to school. I graduated from Portland State University in 2008. I worked at Nike for 10 years before I became a police officer here. I wanted to make the most out of my life by helping others. I wanted to, if people that I know, people I care about, I want to give them the service that they deserve. Not just, it's just a job, but like you could change people's lives. You don't even know just by giving somebody a hug that is having the worst day of their life, and you see it. You also see a lot of other bad things where I've seen people die right in front of me, and you're just like, man, like I couldn't. There was nothing I could do if I got there a little bit early. And I know a lot of officers feel that way. Just hearing that call come out over the radio, and people are in trouble and need help, and you just see officers they're not even getting dispatched, but just attaching or just going, trying to help when other people are running. That says a lot.
So what kinds of assignments have you had at Portland Police Bureau?
So I've been on patrol. I'm going on 10 years now, but I also had the opportunity to be on our rapid response team, on our neighborhood response team that just right now is not currently active due to the cuts. But I was on the COAB for a couple years, which was the Community Advisory Board. So I've got to do a few things in a short amount of time. So. And
can you tell us a little bit about the rapid response team? That's one of the crowd management teams.
Yes.
Correct? So
yeah.
That's been the capacity you've been out in recent weeks.
Yeah.
At the demonstrations. So what was it like in that capacity in the first few weeks when the fence was up around the Justice Center for that RRT response?
I'll say this. I got to see folks that really do want change, like the rest of us that have been impacted by racism. And then I got to see those people get faded out by people that have no idea what racism is all about, never experienced racism, that don't even know that the tactics that they are using are the same tactics that were used against my people. And they don't even know the history. They don't know what they're saying. Coming from someone who graduated from PSU with a history degree, it's actually frightening on how, they say if you don't know your history, you repeat it, and watching people do that to other people just because of what they decide to do with their life.
What are some of those interactions that you're...
So a lot of times someone of color, black, Hispanic, Asian, come up to the fence and directly want to talk to me. Hey, what do you think about George Floyd? What do you think about what happened about this? I go up to the fence, someone white comes up, F the police, don't talk to him. That was the most bizarre thing because I could see it coming. I even had a young African American girl tell me, why is it you guys aren't talking to us? I said, honestly, this is now the 23rd day of doing it. Every time I try to have a conversation with someone that looks like me, someone white comes up and blocks them and tells them not to talk. And then right when I said that, this white girl popped right in front of her. She said, he just said that was going to happen. I said, I told you. She looked at the girl and said, why'd you do that? And I straight up, I said, I've been called the N-word. She's been called the N-word. Why are you talking to me this way? Why do you feel that she can't speak for herself to me? Why is it that you feel you need to speak for her when we're having a conversation? And she couldn't answer my question. All she said was, someone told me to do it. So that has been a very strange thing to watch. I'm cool with, people feeling like they want to help a movement, but then when you go to a gentrified community, and one of the first pictures I saw one of the business that was looted was a black-owned business. I'm like, they're not even from here. They don't even know what they're even doing. So that to me was very angering, watching, a business that was looted, and that business is across the street from a Safeway where before my father became a police officer here in Portland, he worked security at that Safeway. Talk about history and roots. And these folks don't even know what they're even doing. And so it's divisive, it's hurting the community. And I mean, I saw that press conference. Clearly the community was not happy with that. And they even asked for the violence to stop. And they still are coming out and having these violent interactions with other citizens, the police, and at some point you just go, what is the end goal? Bloody Sunday, Selma, those folks marched because they wanted the right to vote, and they legitimately were beaten in the street for civil rights, to have rights that they were told they couldn't have because they were not even human. And then having folks scream and yell that they're being peaceful protests, but you're not peaceful because it is violent. And I actually had a cousin who went to one of the marches and he left. And he said, this has turned into something else. This is weird. So having an African American male marching and then leaving, like I said, it's been very eye-opening. But I did have great conversations. I met two young brothers who were literally, after I had taken an explosive, I had been hit with a full beer can, a rock in my chest, frozen water bottle had hit me. I met two young brothers that were out cleaning up the street. They had 2 garbage bags and they were just running and cleaning up. And a few of us from my team, we went over and we had to shake their hands. I was so moved by them and so impressed. And they said, their words, we're from here. This is our city. Why I don't understand why people are coming here and destroying it. And we want to show that we want to clean it up. And I was absolutely we let them take a picture with us. I didn't take a picture. They had their camera and they had a picture taken. But like I said, I was just so moved by that.
So there's been highs and lows.
Yeah.
I know you and I were talking the other day, and you were sharing just some of the hateful and racist things that you and other officers of color have been subject to. And I mean, I was just floored. But I think that's some of the stuff that people haven't been seeing or hearing. And we've worked very hard within our agency to try and recruit and retain a diverse population of officers. Can you share a little bit about that experience?
It says something when you're at a Black Lives Matter protest. You have more minorities on the police side than you have in a violent crowd. And you have white people screaming at black officers. You have the biggest nose I've ever seen. And you hear these things and you go, where are these people are they gonna say something to this person? No. So, and that's just one example. Having people tell you, what to do with your life, that you need to quit your job, that you need to, you're hurting your community, but they're not even part of the community. And once again, you as a privileged white person telling someone of color what to do with their life.
A lot of
And
hypocrisy.
Absolutely, and you don't even know what I've dealt with, what these white officers that you're screaming at, you don't know them. You don't know anything about them. And there are racist people out in the world. Absolutely. There are bad cops out there in the world. We don't associate with those people. They make us all look bad. That's not something that I stand for. That's not something that my coworkers stand for. And you know, I've been called on calls the N word. I don't know. I can't even count in the time that I have been a police officer, and having white officers jump in and defend me, and me telling them, you know, just ignore it, and them being absolutely shocked, and you really get and they get to see it, and so like I said, when you're standing on the line and they're getting called those names and they're being accused of being racist, when you've seen those officers helping people of color, getting blood on them, trying to save someone's life that's been shot, gang violence, domestic violence, and you see them and they're truly trying to help save someone's life, and then they turn around and are called a racist by people that have never seen anything like that, that have never had to put themselves out there. It's disgusting.
So one of the images that stands out for me was an image that Dave Killen from the Oregonian, a photographer from the Oregonian, took, and I believe it was published June 3rd, so it was, you know, about the fourth day into this. And I saw this image of, I think it's four officers with this huge explosive firework, like one of the big ones, exploding in the midst of our officers. And when I first saw it, I cried because I thought, thank God nobody died. And then I found out who some of the officers were, and one was you, and one was one of our sergeants, who is also African American. And to me, that image stood out because the demonstrations are for Black Lives Matter, and two of my colleagues who are African Americans are standing there and nearly died. Can you share a little bit about that incident and what happened, and kind of what your thoughts were?
I'll say this. There's this saying where if you're a black cop, you're not black. I take this uniform off and I'm suspicious. I look like someone that these people would then call the police on. I have been, when I was young, at a party, and I got jumped by a group of white people. Okay, me putting this uniform on does not erase that history that I've had. So when I had that explosive thrown at me, I saw it. I thought it was maybe just like a little firework or something like that, and I realized something was wrong. And I didn't. You see a flash. I didn't even see a flash. I just felt it, and it was hot, and I felt tingling in my fingertips. It was a very powerful blast, and to think that someone has that much anger and hatred, they don't even know someone, to throw something like that, and just not care. It's sad. It really is. But yeah, it went off, and all I remember was feeling it, and then I felt a fire medic. Their jobs are, if we catch on fire, they grab us by our shoulders and pull us back, and they'll put us out, and all we're supposed to do is cover our face, keep our airway open in case we do catch on fire. And I felt that blast. I had a gas mask on, so I couldn't see that well, and just felt these hands grab my shoulder, and I was like, oh, I'm hurt. I don't even know. I don't even know what just happened. I must be messed up. And they said that they were 10 feet behind me and felt the blast, and they knew, they just didn't know what had happened to me. And I feel lucky that I didn't get seriously injured. But, I was told that people were taping marbles and rocks to these explosives. And so you just don't know what it is that you're going into when these things are flying at you in the air. It's some nights where it's dark, you can't see what's coming at you, and what it is a rock, is an explosive. How long did the person hold it that it was lit, where it can just go off at any minute while you're just standing there. And I remember a night where I was holding my I had my stick in my hand, and I was looking at one of the forensic folks mess with their camera, and this rock, a big rock just came and just hit my stick from the dark and right between us, and I'm grabbing her and pulling her back behind a car. She didn't even see it. If that had hit her in the head, that had killed her. And like I said, rocks were dark. It was dark out, and so it was truly a terrifying experience. Just like I said, just not knowing what could happen to the person next to you. So
I want to shift gears a little bit. This is, all this stuff is very intense, but there's been so much intensity out there night after night, for weeks and weeks on end. And it's hard, I think, to capture in words some of the emotion and some of the experience. So we have some exciting news because you were one of the officers who was selected to be one of the new community engagement officers. And I want to just get your thoughts on that and what you hope for in this new and exciting assignment.
I am so excited because what I had fun doing on patrol was getting to know people. So I got to know so many people over almost 10 years of time, and joking with them, laughing with them, doing silly stuff with them, dancing, whatever, and getting to know them on a personal level where, they could talk trash to me, I could talk trash to them. It was funny, and just having that good of a bond with people in the community. And so this new position, I am so excited to bring all these people from the community, actual community members, and have them help us with this change. Because I think that's what the misconception is that we don't want to be better. We don't want to see change. I'm excited to, I already know what the problems are. We already know what things we need to improve. I'm excited to hear from people that are creative from the community that have ways that they want to see problems fixed, solutions. And so that to me is really exciting. And so I'm really happy to step out of my comfort zone, which has been the street, and look at my job in a different light, and just bring just great people that I've got to know, family members, friends, and like I said, people from the community, of ministers from the churches, and all just come together as one. I think I would love to see Pastor Hennessy lead a march with officers down to this protest and show these kids what a peaceful, meaningful protest looks like, where we march together and show them what it looks like together. That would be something to see.
So a theme of togetherness, community, solutions. I'm really excited about all that.
I am too.
I appreciate you taking the time. We'll open it up for questions, so we may, depending on who the question's for, okay, I'll have you step off and then we'll alternate here. So I'm going to go ahead and take it off mute. I'm going to go through the list of media, and then if we can stick to one question, and then if we have time here at the end, we might open it up. But if we can start, is there a question from K2 today?
Yeah, this is Keaton with K2.
Hi, Keaton.
Hi, I guess. My question for Officer Jackson. First of all, can you just tell me what the spelling of his first name?
Yes. His first name is Jakhary. And I said that to all the news desks, too.
Okay, great. Well, thank you.
Yes.
And I guess the other question that I have for you is just, you kind of touched on this earlier, but I wanted you to, we hear so vastly different stories from, like, police and then from the protest side. At least that's what it seems like in some cases. Can you describe to me, like, what your reaction is to some of what protesters have to say about these officers, and what it's like to hear that again at protests? Again, you kind of described it, but we just hear two different stories a lot in these protests.
So you want to know what his reaction is to what some of the demonstrators are saying? Is that accurate?
Yeah, exactly. They say the police indiscriminately use force.
Oh, okay.
They say that it's just we hear so like he's talking about sharing and wanting to talk to people at the protests, while protesters talk about how they're just getting tear gassed and pushed back and stuff like that. So just talk to me about the difference in what the stories that we're hearing.
Okay, and if you can put yourself on mute, we'll get rid of the background noise. So I want to say too, I think it's important to note that we're talking about, almost 40 days or so ish of demonstrations. Some of them we've had multiple demonstrations every night, and each event is different. So I just want to kind of frame that we've had
Definitely.
very, like the huge demonstrations with over 10,000 people throughout the city where we've had very little or no police interaction. But I believe you were referencing more of the groups that you've interacted with downtown.
Honestly, it's been okay. So when these start off, we're not out. So rapid response team, we're not out there. It's one of those things where once the demonstrations start taking a turn, then that's when we start looking at us even leaving wherever we're staged up at. And then once, projectiles and other events where officers that are not RRT are taking projectiles, rocks, bottles, at that point, the sound truck comes out and starts, warning the crowd, hey, we want the crowd to remain peaceful. Please keep the protest peaceful. And these aren't the exact words, but they'll start warning and letting the crowd know, basically, that the tone of the protest is shifting. Once we get out there, now the sound truck has already given these warnings. Sometimes it's already escalated to, it's an unlawful assembly where, we're taking rocks, bottles, other projectiles, people using slingshots and using like ball bearings and tennis balls and golf balls and rocks. And so now it's not peaceful anymore. Some say that's freedom of speech. Like I said, and so we've had cameras behind our line capture those events. So once it gets to that point, you have so many people, you're really, as far as using force and arresting people, you're really trying to get the worst of the worst. You're trying to get the people that are actually throwing objects, that are actually fueling this violent evening. And it's all very much, like I said, trying to get the worst of the worst.
So I think that was a good point, though, that you made. You have been part of a more highly trained team that comes in to provide, the crowd intervention if things get bad. We have mobile field forces where the patrol officers, may come down and hold different positions, but you guys are really the ones, if we need to disperse a crowd, you will work with the mobile field forces.
Yeah.
To try and make that happen. So.
Yeah, and even in those situations where there's been breaks or pauses, I still have been able to have good conversations with people that truly want to ask questions, and I'll tell them, hey, this unfortunately is not the right time to have this conversation, and I've given them my name and what precinct I'm out of, and hey, find me. But right now this isn't safe, and if I were you, I would leave because it's just escalating. I don't want you to get hit with something from the back of the crowd because they're trying to throw something at us. And I have had people reach out to me that truly, want to have a conversation. So
maybe we'll do it this way. Why don't we leave you here? We'll take some other questions that they have for you, and then we'll switch to the chief. So we've got a few more minutes. Is there another question for Officer Jackson?
This is Maxine.
Hi, Max.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Hi. Thanks, Officer Jackson, for taking the time.
Hi, Maxine.
I just wondered, you mentioned the fireworks that exploded. Were you injured, and where did that occur?
It's all in a report. That was early on when all the protests started. I couldn't tell you what street or anything. But no, I felt tingling in my fingers, but luckily I wasn't injured by it. I know another explosive had gone off and injured a Multnomah County deputy. He had gotten a concussion, and then a couple days later he resigned, and he was a newer recruit. So that was unfortunate.
Max, I believe that one was published, I think it was June 3rd, so it should have been probably right before.
Where was that? Do you remember where that was?
I don't. I think Dave Killen took the photograph, so he may know. Yeah.
The other thing is, you know, police have been criticized for firing tear gas and less lethal once a riot or unlawful assemblies are declared after objects are being thrown. They've tried to, you know, stay back to try to de-escalate and not create tension. I mean, what are officers talking about in terms of what do you think is needed to be done to stem the nightly clashes?
I'll say this. We don't even want to come out. We would love for a demonstration to be peaceful and us not to even have to be involved. It's a lot of work. It's, like I said, our work, we're pulled off the street and we're not able to take 911 calls. I had a young African-American male while we were, and I don't even remember what night it was because there's been so many, but he walked up to me. He wasn't part of the protest or anything. We were staged far away from the Justice Center, and he walked up. He said, "Hey, man, I just want to say I'm so upset that y'all are here, but if my grandma called the police, there's no one there to help my grandma. That bothers me that you have a group of white people that are throwing a temper tantrum downtown, but if my grandma needs help, y'all ain't even there to even go help her." And that's we don't want to be out there. We would much rather be out there in the community taking 911 calls, helping people, not dealing with the same group of people night after night. So I don't know if that answers your question.
I wish we had the one solution. I think it's really
Right.
complicated, but we don't want to continue to have to deal with this in, you know, the same manner night after night.